unlike what I said in our Switch 2 special about how I consume games, that I'll buy a full price game on launch as a physical edition to play and then trade in, I only buy digital games if they're discounted. Side note, I then went on in the Norway episode to talk about how I flouted those rules twice in the case of Diablo 4 before proceeding to not play it for 2 years.
Yes.
This month I flouted it again because I bought Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered the day it was shadow dropped for a full price of £50. For now, it's only available digitally. And then, did I proceed to at least play it to completion? Find out coming up now. Like many people, I was immediately enticed by the extraordinary graphical remaster / full graphical rebuild in Unreal 5, and the game does look absolutely gorgeous. As with anything rendered in Unreal 5, it does lack a certain style because of its hyperreal genericism, but this world is meant to be realistic, and the style comes in other ways. You know, the different regions and cities and societies and communities and factions and flora and fauna and Florida have been designed. It all looks stunning, from the rainy forests to the spooky caves and forts, the surreal madness of the Shivering Isles, the radiant marble pillars of the Imperial City, everything in between. It doesn't run great, I'll say that much, especially in the open world. There's a lot of frame rate stutters, artifacing, pop-in. And I mean, at the heart of it, this game is a 20-year-old game that has only had a smattering of quality of life features added in. And after a few hours of playing, I decided that I'd rather just play Skyrim, which I hadn't properly played since it came out, which was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I downloaded the PS5 version of Skyrim via PS Plus and started a new game just to sort of remind myself of what upgrades Skyrim had made over Oblivion. And immediately the game is quicker. I say immediately. After you have to sit through an on-rails opening for about 400 hours, The game is then quicker, it's cleaner, it's more snappy with how you do everything. Weapons in both hands is great. Inventory is really easy to manage. Perks in the leveling up is a quicker way to feel progress than like the longer form perks you unlock in Oblivion. I mean, the biggest upgrade in Skyrim over Oblivion is in exploring, though. The dungeons that you'll stumble across in the game, like Oblivion, come in different forms, like caves or forts or dwarven things or elven ruins and, stuff like that. In Oblivion, they are a linear experience that you will then need to backtrack through when you've hit the end of it, which is monumentally annoying, especially when Oblivion in general is split up into much smaller areas with loading doors much more frequent than in Skyrim, because obviously it's an older game. And also when you press your map button in Oblivion, it defaults to the world map view when you're in a dungeon.
That's a silly oversight.
It's even worse than that is you then have to zoom in on the world map and then press a button again to get into the dungeon map. Every time.
Yeah.
It's so annoying because, obviously, like the dungeons are quite, windy and generic. And even if you don't have general navigational amnesia like I apparently do, like they're easy to get lost in. It's not fun, and it makes me just not want to bother exploring places I stumble across. Whereas in Skyrim, the dungeons, usually have a little secret tunnel or a lever to pull at the end of the dungeon to loop back to the entrance. And it's also much easier to know when you're finished with a dungeon, or if there are more secrets to poke around and find. Usually there's a tangible end boss or like a big treasure chest to find. And then it's checked off as cleared on your world map, which
we like that.
Oblivion doesn't do that.
We like a tick.
It's a quality of life thing I would have loved to see in Oblivion Remastered. And, because they can't obviously redesign all the dungeons to loop around to the beginning, they could at least maybe let you fast travel out of dungeons, which they don't let you do. And it's very easy to become over-encumbered right at the very end of a dungeon from picking up too much loot or expensive armor to sell. It then just becomes incredibly tedious in Oblivion. it's very quickly I became absolutely sure I wasn't going to return to Oblivion if those sort of features, weren't patched in. And even though like Skyrim obviously doesn't look as pretty as Oblivion Remastered, even on the PS5 version, what I didn't realise is that the latest versions of the console Skyrim games allows you to add mods.
Yes, they do, don't they?
They are plentiful and incredible, and it wasn't long before I'd added several mods to make the game look really quite stunning on PS5 with denser, more intricate villages and towns, better designed foliage and animals, and amazing sky and weather systems, and some quality of life features like an even more like intricate and cool perk system. I found a mod that just gives you infinite stamina outside of combat. So something like Elden Ring, where you're going to be running around for a lot, and it's like, why punish somebody for just wanting to get around a bit quicker? It's like stamina comes into play when you go into combat. So that's made it good. I also added a bigger jump in too for myself. I doubled the size of my jump. I did find a mod to do a 50 times jump, but I didn't do that.
Oh, you should.
I might do.
Moon jump.
I mean, it's fun, maybe. And then I just proceeded to put 30 hours into a run. I explored a huge amount of the map. I had a brilliant time. And didn't really scratch the surface because it is a huge game, especially with obviously all the DLC that there is for Skyrim. I mean, it's worth saying at this point that neither Skyrim or Oblivion actually have great gameplay because even at release, Skyrim felt dated, much in the way that Starfield has done, because it hasn't reinvented a 20-plus-year-old formula once again. But the joy in Skyrim, as with Oblivion, is it's just a huge, fully realised world to explore. It's almost like best thought of as a walking simulator with a bit of action, because exploring everything these worlds have to offer is just wonderful. The different guilds and factions you can join and be a part of, the incredible versatility in styles of play and narrative threads you can explore, just the sheer epicness of the main stories of these worlds. It's just wonderful to get lost in, even if it's not as engaging, to play as something like Dark Souls or Elden Ring or The Witcher 3 or Breath of the Wild. When I was doing some research into like the different mods and stuff that was going to be, a good fit for the PS5, I found somebody who I think called himself like the Tamriel tourist, I think. And
nice alliteration.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And basically sought to find ways of playing the game to experience it like a walking simulator as a tourist. And there were mods then to turn off certain things, but then also like self-imposed rules, like you have to sleep in a bed every night and things like that. And it was just like, you can play this game like that and you will have a great time because it is just really, really beautiful. There was one thing in Skyrim that rubbed me up the wrong way, and it was such a small thing. And I'm really surprised I couldn't find a mod to override it. There might be one, but I could not find it. And that is, you can't jump while you're running.
You have to do a standing jump.
Yeah, you have to stop running to jump. And it is such a silly thing to not be able to do because it makes traversal feel so stilted.
Yeah.
Like, especially because, like, the game rightly adjusts your speed when you're running uphill, but it does it quite dramatically, which is it's fine. But Skyrim is an extremely mountainous region of this world, and it started to get very slow, dull, and annoying to get around. It's why I put the double, well, not a double jump, but, a double height jump in there.
50 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably needed, to be honest.
Just clear the mountain in one go.
Yeah, I was sure that having reminded myself of all the improvements of, this core system that Skyrim had made, that I would probably never return to Oblivion Remastered at this point. But to confirm that feeling, I thought, I'm going to boot up Oblivion one last time before uninstalling it and mourning my £50. And I was really surprised that there was actually a lot that I was really enjoying. You can jump while running for a start, so that's something. You don't have the the infinite options of combining weapons, magic, perks, and abilities. So you basically just pick the sword with the biggest number and crack on.
Yeah.
There's no crafting in Oblivion, so I'm much less inclined to madly gather materials and ingredients in the same way because I've never got into potion brewing in these games. And even though it was annoying that the dungeons in the game weren't structured in the same way as Skyrim, instead of being annoyed about it, I just didn't worry about it. I checked them off. I'd make sure that I got to the location so I could use them as fast travel points on my map if I needed to. But otherwise, I'd only really bother exploring them if they were part of a quest or a side quest. And it means that if the devs do patch in a completed checkmark system for them, I can go back and mop them up at some point if I wanted. And I just started really enjoying the main story, which is brilliant. It's got great characters. The central one of the big central characters is Martin Septim, the surprise heir to the throne, voiced by
Patrick Stewart.
Sean Bean.
Oh, is Patrick Stewart in there somewhere as well?
He voices is it Tiber Septim, the emperor who's basically killed at the beginning of the game, and then Martin Septim is his heir.
Because I've never played more than the first hour. So.
Yeah, he gets stabbed in the back in a sewer.
I remember that.
Old Pat Stew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the character of Martin Septim. He's just got this ridiculously fantastic arc. And I mean, going through the Oblivion gates in the game into this hellish landscape, it's always very cool. Even if they do get a bit samey after a while, like the frequent loading screens, even though obviously on PS5 they're there for a second, but that it does stop your momentum a little bit. But they became less of an issue for me because I stopped exploring the dungeons and getting lost and going back and forth. So, it stopped bothering me that much, as did the graphical hitches in the performance, because I just didn't care that much. I mean, these games have always been noted for their slight aesthetic jankiness, so it felt on brand, at least. and then I just played the main story to completion, which absolutely delivers on its epic premise with a final showdown set piece that was, breathtaking 20 years ago, and now looks even cooler and more impressive. And I love that you can keep playing in the world after the main story ends, because it changes like the dynamic of this whole world, and it's great to see that reflected in how people behave and talk, and how lots of other things change around the world accordingly. And after the main story, nicely, Oblivion Remastered also includes the two main pieces of DLC from Oblivion, which is Knights of the Nine and the Shivering Isles. I did the whole of the Knights of the Nine questline, which sees you solving puzzles and questing across the whole land in search of a legendary set of armour and weapons, and it's really, really fun. It's like a proper treasure hunt. It's brilliantly realised. The thing that I was most excited about playing in this entire remaster, possibly the reason why I bought it at all, was the Shivering Isles DLC, which is set on a whole new area of the map, and it's this set of islands, the domain of Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness.
Whoa.
This place is mental. Literally, it's split into two sides. You've got this colourful, like Wonderland-esque mania, and then the bleak, desolate, desaturated dementia. Just exploring mania and dementia. Just on a Sunday morning. And at the heart of it always this madcap Daedric prince who sends you on an epic quest. And like the design of this land is amazing. Obviously it looks stunning in this remaster. All the different places you discover have incredible character to them. All the different places you discover have incredible character to them and incredible characters in them. And also like the way they've designed the dungeons in this expansion is so much better. Like there are like looping designs and more variety and more interactivity, and it sort of feels like a 0.5 DLC in terms of like what it was setting up for how Skyrim will be. And I don't really remember that when I first played Oblivion, however many years ago. But it's really, really cool to actually see that path, that development path, sort of laid out in the DLC. So yeah, like the Shivering Isles, just a real joy to explore and experience all of the literal madness that it has in store. I really, really do hope that they patch in some more improvements to Oblivion Remastered, not just in terms of its graphical stability, but mostly just with a few more quality of life tweaks to make exploring the game just less of a chore, much more enticing. And I'm actually glad that I have it digitally on my console, because
it's ready to go.
Exactly, it feels like
the sort of game ready to go.
Yeah, and I can just dip in and out, to check off a few quests now and again when I fancy having that little dose of escapism. And it's definitely not going to scratch the serious gameplay itches that I get, but I have many other games for that. And this is, still an old game at heart. But I also think that, free of nostalgia, this game still has got a huge amount to offer as an experience. It is lovely, and honestly, the music does a lot of heavy lifting.